Alright, don't know if any pixels are coming in hot on the camera. In my last video sitting on the couch here, there are some dead pixels. I tried to clean the sensor thanks to your suggestions. I do have a light that I got thanks to the Patreon support that I could set up here in the living room. Side note, this living room space is actually part of our studio apartment. Sandy and I share a studio apartment, so the kitchen's there, the bed's up there, the office is there, the living room's here. It's just one room. It's like a 400 square foot apartment, so there's no special garage or area that I film in. I'm in this corner here where I do the music videos as well. But thanks to the Patreon supporters again for making this possible. Don't want to totally spend a lot of money on maybe a new SLR unless it's totally broken, because this one's working pretty well besides those dead pixels. So hopefully the light, the lower ISO settings, and yeah, the sensor cleaning worked. Thank you again for all your support on here. All the shares and thumbs up and likes and subscriptions on the YouTube channel really make this possible. But we're gonna dive in with my thoughts on the Nepal trip, the Golden Trail Series final. This is me just ranting on the couch here. If you want to see actual footage from the trip, check out the video that I just posted a couple days ago. I'll link to it up there as well as in the description below, up there at the end of this video. But yeah, just an amazing trip, dream trip to Nepal, and I want to thank the Golden Trail series for making it possible. It was part of the reward and ranking of being ranked top 10 in the International Golden Trail Series after doing 3 races, or scoring in 3 races over the summer. For me, it ended up being Sierra Pikes Peak, and Ring of Steel, being ranked in the top 10 along with like top mountain runners in the world, Kilian Jornet, and all these really phenomenal runners. To be able to make that trip and having it paid for by the Golden Trail Series, that huge travel perk as well as the open prize money, was what made the trip and experience possible. And it was a fun trip. We got to do rafting, we got to do zip lining, we got to run with local runners, we did some community events, we got to connect a bit with the local scene as well as race the Annapurna Trail Marathon 42K, the longest 42K of my life. It took almost 6 hours, but I'll get into the race details here in a minute, as well as to be exposed to the largest mountains in the world, right? The highest mountains in the world, right? It's always a dream to be able to go there and see, which for me was the total other side of the world, the opposite side of the world. So really thankful for that opportunity. And it was made possible by being top 10 in that Golden Trail Series. And it wasn't something I thought I'd be able to do again this year because I did so bad early on at the Mont Blanc Marathon. I had a meltdown there, and then the pressure was on to place really well at Sierra and Pikes Peak. And it was really the Pikes Peak race, getting second to Kilian there, and getting those points at Pikes Peak that really helped me in the series. But that was the goal for the second half of the summer, and it was pure mountain running against a lot of mountain specialists. And so going into Nepal, I was a bit tired and just excited to be able to go on the trip. But in terms of like making the trip, that cutoff being top 10, I finished 7th overall. We'll get into the rankings and the placings on that and how that panned out in a minute. But it was a great experience. And like I always say with travel, it's a privilege. It's a real privilege to be able to travel, and I do realize how bad the pollution is. Air pollution from airplanes, long haul airplane flights are generally very bad for your carbon footprint. It's a lot of pollution, and especially for someone like me flying from Colorado to Nepal is like, I probably traveled like the farthest. I think someone's sibling came from Patagonia or something, but other than that, a lot of the athletes in the Golden Trail Series came from Europe, which is still a really far trip to Nepal. But from Colorado to Nepal was a long plane flight. I do feel bad. I donate to carbon offset programs, and I'm not gonna beat around the bush there. It's horrible for the environment flying so much. I don't want to come off too much as a hypocrite. I don't call myself an environmentalist because I realize my carbon footprint is very big from flying. Hopefully some of that's offsetted by being, vegetarian, vegan diet, and trying to live in a small space and not drive my car as much and recycle and all these other things that you could do for your carbon footprint, but obviously flying's a big one. That's a video for another day though. Anyway, the traveling's a privilege. It's a privilege because to have the time to travel, to have the flexibility to travel, to have that airfare covered, expensive trip, but just to have that experience, it gives you a different perspective, I think. And that's really the gift of traveling. Like, yes, it's nice to go to warmer climates and when it's in the winter, or go to exotic beach and relax, but it's nice to see how other cultures live and how people on the other side of the world who grew up in a very different environment from you, socioeconomically, environmentally, live. And when you see how other people live, hopefully you could kind of get into their shoes, so to speak, to kind of, feel what it's like to be in their shoes. Maybe not really, but like kind of, you could start thinking in that general direction of a different perspective. And so it's all about gaining new perspective and fresh perspective. And I think that's probably the biggest gift I've gotten from traveling, is being able to see how people make a living on the other side of the world, how people go through their day maybe, and what their concerns are, what their goals are in life, right? We all are on the same team, sharing this world, trying to get through life, and hopefully live a decent life, hopefully, have an enjoyable life. And if we go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's this thing they teach in the US a lot. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is kind of the pyramid structure, where at the very bottom, you're looking at basic things, basic needs, food, clean water, shelter, right? Warmth and clothing, shelter, basic needs. We go even more basic than that, and you're looking at clean air, right? Basic things that you need to survive. And then as you work your way up, you get, friendships and social structure. I don't even remember the exact things. But at the very top is self-actualization. I can't even say the word right. Self-actualization. And it would be things like running as a hobby, or running as a fun activity, or any fun activity where you have leisure time, right? Like playing golf or skiing or something, playing any hobby, basically, painting or playing music or something like that. That's what you get to experience when you've got your basic needs covered. But what we realize is a lot of people out there in the world are more concerned about getting their basic needs covered first before they could work their way up to something like that, right? If you're worried about finding your next meal, or you're worried about clean drinking water, or you're worried about where you're going to sleep at night, or if it's going to be warm enough, if you're going to have enough clothes and shelter for the elements, then your concerns change. So, in a lot of parts of the world, but even around places in Kathmandu and in Nepal, people see you running around for fun in the Golden Trail series, and it's not something that they would relate to, because if you're doing a lot of physical work and you have to do a lot of hard physical labor, you're not going to have energy to go out usually and run for fun. It's something that it's a totally different lifestyle, and I respect that and I appreciate that. And to see, there's homeless people in Boulder, there's poverty in countries like East Africa where there's a lot of really good high-level runners, right, professional runners. But to see that discrepancy is a fresh new perspective, really. And I think it's something that you want to work more towards in donating old clothes and shoes for people to wear as shelter, but also maybe to help empower them to be able to protect their feet, or to have more warm clothing for when it rains or gets cold, because a lot of people don't have that. And it makes you really thankful and appreciative for what you have when you see others that are less fortunate, or others that don't have the economic means that you have. So feeling very fortunate. And a lot of the roads in Kathmandu, for example, are dirt. They're not paved, so it's like a lot of bouncy rides and no street lights. It's amazing how people are navigating traffic with no street lights. You see these little scooters, you see buses. We were riding around in a fancy tour bus, little taxis with suitcases strapped on top, and they're all navigating these roads with pretty high population density with no street lights. There was a big earthquake there in 2015. I think there's still maybe some extra road damage from that too. To be devastating if that kind of infrastructure it makes it hard for people to get around town. But that was kind of part of the experience at Kathmandu. I ate a lot of dalbat, great vegetarian food and selection. Really, eating carbon up on rice. Got those lentils in the curry. Had a lot of really good veggie curries as well that we were eating. Gorkha beers was really good as well. Thanks to those that got me some beer, and always fun to try the more local beer and local food, local cuisine, stuff like that we got to experience. And then we flew to Pokhara, which was closer, the other town closer to where we were doing the race, which was near the Annapurna circuit, Annapurna Trek. And at the high point in the race, I'll talk about the race actually now. You know, Pokhara is a totally different town than Kathmandu, and we actually flew there. But you know, it's got this nice lake. We went out on a boat, a little paddle boat. That was kind of a fun leisure activity we did right before the race. But you know, hiking's big out there. Hiking in the big mountains, getting the big views. And so the race, you know, it was a 42K race. It had over 10,000 feet of climbing, over 3,000 meters of climbing. And during the race, we go up to the high point over 12,000 feet. I think it's like 3,600 meters. So like really high altitude, not quite as high as Pikes Peak, but pretty freaking close. It's hard to breathe up there. And that's where you get all the great views of Annapurna 1, the main Annapurna mountain, as well as the Fishtail mountain, that jagged peak, I think, yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And you know, you interact with people along the way in little villages going up, and everyone was so friendly. Everyone's so friendly. Some people are probably like, why is this event going on? I mean, the race had been going on for several years, but to have the extra influx of us international runners coming in for the Golden Trail Series, you know, you're running through people's, you know, some local chickens out on the course. You're running by a herd of mules, a mule train. I think they were pack animals. They were hauling supplies up and down for hikers and trekkers and for the hike camp up there. You know, all sorts of wildlife, a water buffalo, you know, stray dogs, but well taken care of pet dogs all over the place as well. And one dog even followed me for like a mile, over a kilometer. This dog followed me during the race. I was a little worried about him because he's a big dog, but he was friendly and he didn't nip me, so that was the important thing. But yeah, everyone that we met and interacted with was extremely kind and gracious and just really nice. And a lot of the people involved with the race and the running community were very friendly, and it was really cool to see that. But anyway, the race, it was very competitive because we got Killian out there who won. Congrats to Killian Jornet. He won convincingly. He's had a perfect score in this series, right? He won every single race he did, including Pikes Peak, Sarazanal, and yeah, oh, Zagama. He did Zagama. I forgot because that was the first one of the series. But anyway, he won the final, and you know, it was a tough race. That much climbing, extremely technical course all the way, and that kind of surprised me, I will say, because we're climbing up at, you know, elevation slightly higher than Pokhara, maybe, you know, 6,000 feet, 1,800 meters. You're feeling your breathing already. It's kind of like Boulder though, so I have no excuse. I should be used to altitude, but we're climbing up these really steep flights of stairs where it's more like power hiking. And we're going through a lot of vegetation, dense forests, I don't want to say jungle, but like different microclimates on the climb up. A lot of roots and rocks and dirt and mud. So it's a lot of power hiking. It's a very steep climb. It's a very high altitude climb, and it's a massive climb. And then the same thing with the downhill. It's just a really long downhill, and that taxed me a lot. I was, you know, just pounding my Spring Energy. Enter code SAGE for discount, myspringenergy.com. Canterbury, Hillade, Power Rush are my favorite flavors, and drinking electrolyte fluid. Trying to stay hydrated because it's pretty warm at the bottom. Up high at top, you know, great aid station support up there. People cheering. A lot of pictures coming out from that top ridgeline section we ran, which had a class 3 rock scrambling section. I will say it was very technical. And yeah, I was humbled by the experience. I was humbled by the race. To be running that long for 42Ks, it felt like an ultra. And the descent down is extremely technical in a lot of places as well, with the tree roots and rocks. And I can't believe I didn't fall. But wearing the Hoka One One Torrent, great trail shoe, my favorite. I've been wearing them in all the races in the series this year. And I got passed. I got passed by a lot of strong local runners. This is a shout out to the local runners. There were like 3 or 4 of them in the top 10 in the men's race, and then in the women's race, also some local runners from Nepal who cracked the top 10. Extremely strong, great athletes, and really impressive to see that. I'll list the results and the names at the end of this video in text because I don't want to mispronounce anyone's name, but Yeah, I mean, I got rolled up. I was 11th place. It was not, it was a tough race for me. I'm not gonna lie, and I was humbled by the experience. But see the clip there of the finish, right after the finish there, just kind of the support you got at the finish line. And again, in the vlog, you could see more of those finishers coming in. Sandy got some footage because she was waiting at the finish line for us to come down the mountain. But really just an honor to be able to take part in this event, in this race, and to close out the Golden Trail Series. I was able to finish 7th overall. A lot of that's because some guys dropped out of the race, some guys didn't start the race. Kind of helped my ranking, even though I didn't do quite as well at the final as I wanted to, and compared to like Pikes Peak. But again, it was a very totally different type of race, and that's the unique thing with the Golden Trail Series is you travel to all these different places and you're racing these iconic mountain races, and usually they're pretty steep and pretty technical, but they're not all like that. Sarazenol and Pikes Peak are less technical and more runnable and fast, whereas Ring of Steel and the Annapurna race were quite a bit more technical. So it really pushes my limits. Any service, any distance, so you know I don't mess around. I've been doing more road marathon training as well, getting into this winter season, and we've got snow and some really cold temperatures going on here in Boulder, so haven't been up to the high mountains and peaks quite as much, but it's kind of a seasonal thing for me. So thank you again to all the Patreon supporters again for really making this possible. Be sure to stay tuned on here for more of these types of videos, adventure vlogs, my own training, but I'm going to do some more training talks and coaching types of videos. Comment below with topics you guys would like to hear about. Be sure to check out Sandy's channel, Running Wild to Believe. I'll put the link to Sandy's channel in the description below as well. Thanks to the title sponsor, Hoka One One. Again, I could do all my sponsor plugs, but I'm not going to do them all at once. But thanks to you, and let me know how your running's going. As always, love to hear what you've got coming up next, how your training's going, how you found this channel, things like that. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Hope you're doing well. Stay tuned for more.